From a real pimp who discussed stock markets to a car with machine gun headlights and a nightclub that inspired the Temptations, this blaxploitation oddity hides secrets weirder than its Tangerine Rolls-Royce. Discover the bizarre true stories behind Samuel L. Jackson's favorite exploitation film. Fact 1. Based on a fourth-grade dropout, pimp director Matt Cimber didn't pull the character of the Baron out of thin air. He based him on a real pimp he met during his research for the film. What made this encounter so memorable wasn't just the man's profession, but the jarring contradiction between his lack of formal education and his unexpected sophistication. This pimp had only completed fourth grade, dropping out of school at an incredibly young age. Yet when Cimber sat down to talk with him, he found himself in a conversation about the stock market, political theory, and current events. The man spoke with intelligence and insight that seemed completely at odds with someone who had barely learned to read and write in a formal setting. Cimber was fascinated by this paradox. Here was someone operating on the streets, living a life most people would consider criminal and degrading, yet demonstrating a sharp mind and natural intelligence that could have taken him anywhere. The director later reflected on what this man might have accomplished if he had been given access to proper education, opportunities, and a different path in life. It made Cimber wonder about all the wasted potential in people who never get the chance to develop their abilities. This real-life encounter became the foundation for the Baron's dual identity in the film, a man living two completely separate lives, one as a successful businessman and family man, the other as a street-level pimp. The character's complexity and the film's central premise of hidden identity and double lives came directly from Cimber's meeting with this educated, articulate pimp who society had written off before he even reached his 10th birthday. Fact 2. Star-owned club that inspired the Temptations. John Daniels, who played the Baron in The Candy Tangerine Man, wasn't just an actor playing a nightclub owner. He actually owned one of the most significant clubs in Los Angeles music history. Maverick's Flat, located on Crenshaw Boulevard in South Los Angeles, was Daniels's real-life establishment, and it played a crucial role in the soul and rhythm and blues scene of the 1960s. The club opened its doors in 1966, and for the grand opening night, Daniels managed to book one of the hottest acts in music at the time, the Temptations. The legendary Motown group performed at Maverick's Flat on opening night, and the club made such an impression on them that it directly inspired one of their most famous songs. Psychedelic Shack, released in 1970, was written about Maverick's Flat, with the lyrics describing the kind of hip underground atmosphere that Daniels had created in his club. The song became a major hit, reaching number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and becoming one of the Temptations' signature tracks. Daniels's club was known for its cutting-edge vibe, featuring psychedelic light shows, progressive music, and an atmosphere that captured the counterculture spirit of the late 60s. So when Daniels appeared in The Candy Tangerine Man as a character who owns a nightclub, he wasn't really acting. He was drawing from his genuine experience as a successful club owner who had hosted some of the biggest names in music and inspired a Motown classic that's still played on oldies stations today. Fact 3. Barry White turned down the soundtrack. The funky, soulful soundtrack that drives The Candy Tangerine Man almost didn't exist, and the story of how it came together is as chaotic as the film's production itself. Director Matt Cimber had already spent his tiny budget on actually filming the movie, and when it came time to add music, he realized he had absolutely no money left to pay for a proper soundtrack. Desperate for a solution, Cimber reached out to Barry White, who was already becoming a major figure in soul and funk music by 1975. White was known for his deep, smooth voice and lush orchestral arrangements, and Cimber thought he would be perfect for the film. But when Cimber explained that he had no money to pay for the music, Barry White initially turned him down flat. He simply couldn't afford to work for free. However, White was intrigued enough by the project that he agreed to watch a rough cut of the film. After seeing what Cimber had created, White was impressed enough that he wanted to help, even though he still couldn't do it himself without payment. Instead, White recommended a group called Smoke, telling Cimber they might be interested in the project. Smoke agreed to create the entire soundtrack without being paid up front, working essentially for free with the hope that the film might eventually make money. Their gamble paid off in terms of creating a memorable, funky score that perfectly captures the blaxploitation vibe, even if the film itself never became a major commercial success. The soundtrack remains one of the film's most praised elements, all thanks to Barry White's recommendation and Smoke's willingness to work on spec. Fact 4. Cast included actual Sunset Strip prostitutes. Matt Cimber's commitment to authenticity in The Candy Tangerine Man went far beyond typical casting decisions. He literally recruited real sex workers from the streets of Hollywood to appear in the film. This wasn't kept secret or hidden in any way. The film's credits openly and explicitly state that it features the actual hookers and blades of the Sunset Strip, Hollywood, using the street terminology of the time. Blades was slang for pimps, referencing the flashy, sharp-dressed style they cultivated. Cimber wanted his film to feel genuine and real, not like actors pretending to inhabit a world they knew nothing about, so he went directly to the source. He cast actual prostitutes working on Sunset Strip in background roles throughout the film, giving the street scenes an authenticity that would have been impossible to achieve with traditional extras or actors. These weren't major speaking roles, but rather the background atmosphere, women standing on corners, walking the streets, interacting with Johns. The decision was controversial even at the time, raising questions about exploitation and whether Cimber was taking advantage of vulnerable people for his film. However, the director maintained that he was simply being honest about the world he was depicting, and that hiring real sex workers gave them an opportunity to earn money in a safer environment than their usual work. The credits' blunt acknowledgement of who these performers really were remains one of the most unusual and transparent casting decisions in exploitation film history, a choice that would be almost unthinkable in a mainstream production today. Fact 5. Legendary director's grandson was assistant editor. Hidden in the credits of this low-budget blaxploitation film is one of the most prestigious names in cinema history, though you might not recognize it at first glance. Erich von Stroheim III worked as one of the assistant editors on The Candy Tangerine Man, a position that seems completely incongruous with his Hollywood pedigree. His grandfather, Erich von Stroheim, was one of the most legendary directors of the silent film era, known for elaborate, expensive productions and uncompromising artistic vision. The elder von Stroheim directed classics like Greed and The Wedding March, films that are still studied in film schools today for their innovative techniques and epic scope. He was known as the man you love to hate for his villainous acting roles, and his directorial work pushed the boundaries of what cinema could achieve in the 1920s and 30s. By the time his grandson ended up working on The Candy Tangerine Man, the von Stroheim name carried serious weight in Hollywood history, associated with prestige, artistry, and the golden age of cinema. So finding von Stroheim's grandson working as an assistant editor on a rushed 10-day exploitation film about a pimp with a weaponized Rolls-Royce is a bizarre twist of Hollywood fate. It's the kind of career trajectory that only makes sense in the chaotic world of 1970s independent filmmaking, where legitimate Hollywood lineage mixed freely with exploitation and grindhouse productions. Von Stroheim, the third's presence on the crew, represents the strange crossroads where a classical Hollywood pedigree met the rough-and-tumble world of blaxploitation cinema. Two worlds that rarely overlapped, but somehow came together on this unusual project. Fact 6. Buck Flower used bizarre pseudonym. George Buck Flower was one of those character actors who appeared in seemingly everything throughout the 1970s and 80s, usually playing homeless drunks, derelicts, or lowlifes with his signature scraggly beard and weathered face. He worked with John Carpenter multiple times, appeared in Back to the Future, and became a recognizable face to fans of exploitation and B-movies. But in The Candy Tangerine Man, Flower is almost unrecognizable, and not just because he shaved his trademark beard. He appears clean-shaven, playing one of the racist white cops who antagonize the Baron throughout the film. But what makes his appearance truly strange is the pseudonym he used in the credits. Instead of his real name, or even his common stage name, Buck Flower, he's credited as C.D. LaFleur, a bizarrely fancy-sounding alias that seems completely at odds with the rough character he's playing. The LaFleur part is particularly odd. It's essentially a French translation of his last name, Flower, given a pretentious spelling with the EU instead of OW. Flower was known for using various pseudonyms throughout his exploitation film career, sometimes to distance himself from particularly low-budget productions, other times for reasons known only to him. But C.D. LaFleur might be his strangest credited name, suggesting a sophistication that neither the character nor the production really possessed. For fans of Buck Flower's later work, seeing him clean-shaven and credited under this elaborate fake name is jarring, like discovering a completely different actor. It's one of those small production oddities that exploitation films are famous for, where even the credits couldn't be straightforward. Fact 7. Car confusion. Bentley or Rolls-Royce? The Baron's candy-colored luxury car is arguably the most iconic element of the Candy Tangerine Man, appearing prominently in promotional materials and serving as the character's signature vehicle throughout the film. But here's the weird part. Nobody seems to agree on what kind of car it actually is. Depending on which source you consult, the vehicle is described as a 1952 Bentley, a 1963 Rolls-Royce Phantom 5, or just vaguely as a Rolls-Royce without any specific year or model. Some articles confidently state it's a Bentley, while others are equally certain it's a Rolls. And still others hedge their bets by saying Rolls-Royce or Bentley as if they're interchangeable. This confusion isn't entirely unreasonable. Bentley and Rolls-Royce have been closely connected throughout their history, with Rolls-Royce owning Bentley for decades and the two brands sharing many components and designs. Cars from this era often looked similar enough that distinguishing them requires expertise in vintage British luxury automobiles. But the fact that even seemingly authoritative sources contradict each other about such a prominent prop speaks to the chaotic nature of the film's production and its documentation. Matt Cimber was shooting fast on a tiny budget, and apparently nobody bothered to keep detailed records about what specific car they used or where they got it. The vehicle might have been borrowed, rented, or owned by someone involved in the production, and those details were lost over time. The confusion has only grown in the decades since the film's release, with the car's true identity becoming part of the movie's mystique and legend. Fact 8. Machine guns hidden in headlights. The Baron's luxury car wasn't just for show, it was a weapon on wheels, equipped with one of the most absurd gadgets in blaxploitation cinema history. Hidden inside the car's headlights were pop-up machine guns that could emerge at the push of a button, transforming the elegant vehicle into a mobile arsenal. During the film's action sequences, the headlights would flip open and twin machine guns would rise up, blazing away at the Baron's enemies in scenes that were clearly trying to match the gadget-filled cool of James Bond movies on a fraction of the budget. The effect is hilariously over the top, especially given that the rest of the film is relatively grounded in street-level crime drama rather than spy movie fantasy. One reviewer, writing about the film years later, singled out this particular feature as truly the high point of the whole movie, and it's easy to see why. The machine gun headlights represent everything wild and excessive about 1970s blaxploitation. The desire to be cool and exciting even when logic and realism go completely out the window. There's no explanation for how a pimp managed to acquire or install military-grade weapons in his luxury car, or why he thought this was a practical solution to his problems. But the film doesn't care about those details. The scene exists purely for the spectacle of seeing an elegant candy-colored Rolls or Bentley, or whatever it actually is, suddenly transforming into a death machine. It's the kind of moment that exploitation film fans live for. Something so ridiculous and unexpected that it becomes memorable purely through its audacity. The machine gun headlights have become one of the most frequently mentioned aspects of the film in retrospectives and reviews. Fact 9. Dusty's rhyming dialogue was improvised. One of the most memorable characters in the Candy Tangerine Man is Dusty Compton, the Baron's associate, who speaks almost entirely in rhyming jive talk, creating a distinctive verbal style that sounds like a street poet crossed with a hustler. Lines like his dialogue have a rhythmic, almost musical quality that makes him stand out from every other character in the film. But here's what makes Dusty's dialogue even more impressive. It wasn't written in the script. According to director Matt Cimber, the actor playing Dusty completely improvised all of his rhyming dialogue on set, making it up as they filmed each scene. The script apparently gave the character normal dialogue, But the actor decided to add this distinctive verbal flourish on his own initiative, creating rhymes spontaneously during takes. Simber was so impressed with what the actor was doing that he encouraged him to keep going, and the rhyming jive talk became Dusty's defining characteristic. Years later, when discussing the film's cult success and longevity, Simber specifically credited the actor's improvised rhyming as a major reason why the movie developed such a devoted following. The verbal creativity and spontaneity added an extra layer of entertainment and authenticity that wouldn't have existed if they had stuck to the original script. Dusty's rhymes give the film an unpredictable, loose energy that matches the chaotic spirit of its production, and they've been quoted and referenced by fans of blaxploitation cinema for decades. It's a reminder that some of the best moments in low-budget filmmaking come from actors being given the freedom to take creative risks and try things that weren't in the original plan. Fact 10. Racist cue ball tirade scene. The Candy Tangerine Man features plenty of over-the-top moments, but one scene stands out as particularly bizarre, even by the film's standards. In this memorable sequence, the character Dusty is playing pool, and things aren't going his way. After missing a shot and losing the game, Dusty doesn't just accept defeat or curse his bad luck like a normal person. Instead, he launches into an extended, angry soliloquy directed at the cue ball itself, the white ball used to strike the others. He blames the chalky, honky motherfucker ball for his loss, accusing the white cue ball of being racist and deliberately sabotaging his game because of his skin color. The scene plays out with complete seriousness, with Dusty treating the inanimate cue ball as if it were a living enemy actively conspiring against him. The metaphor is obvious. Dusty is projecting his frustrations with racism and white supremacy onto the white ball that's central to the game of pool, turning a simple loss at billiards into a statement about racial oppression. But the execution is so literal and prolonged that it crosses over from making a point into becoming absurdist comedy. The scene reflects the film's willingness to address racial themes head-on, even when that meant creating moments that were strange or uncomfortable. It's the kind of scene that you can't quite believe exists even while you're watching it, where the line between serious social commentary and unintentional humor becomes impossible to identify. The cue ball tirade has become one of the most quoted and referenced moments from the film, remembered by viewers precisely because it's so unexpected and so committed to its strange premise. Fact 11. Filmed in just 10 days. The entire production of The Candy Tangerine Man was completed in just 10 days, a timeline that's incredibly short even by low-budget exploitation film standards. Director Matt Simber confirmed this absurdly brief shooting schedule himself in interviews years later, and he seemed somewhat amazed in retrospect that they pulled it off at all. 10 days to shoot an entire feature film meant that scenes had to be captured in 1 or 2 takes, with no time for extensive rehearsals, multiple camera setups, or any of the usual filmmaking processes that help polish a final product. Everything had to be done fast and rough, with Simber making quick decisions and moving on to the next scene without much opportunity for reflection or revision. What makes this rushed production even more amusing is what happened after the film was released. British film critics, known for taking cinema seriously as an art form, watched The Candy Tangerine Man and began reading deep metaphorical significance into various elements of the film. They analyzed the Baron's double identity as a commentary on race and class in America, interpreted visual choices as deliberate artistic statements, and generally treated the movie as if every frame had been carefully considered and loaded with meaning. Simber's reaction to this scholarly attention was bewilderment and amusement. He openly admitted that he didn't know what he was thinking during the rushed production, essentially saying there was no grand plan or deep metaphorical intention behind most of the film's elements. They were just trying to get footage in the can before their 10 days ran out. The disconnect between the film's hasty creation and the serious critical analysis it received later is a perfect example of how art and meaning can be found or created by viewers even when the creators themselves were just trying to finish on time. Fact 12. Samuel L. Jackson's childhood favorite. Samuel L. Jackson, one of the most successful and recognizable actors in modern cinema, has an unexpected favorite movie from his youth, The Candy Tangerine Man. Jackson grew up watching blaxploitation films and has been open about how much they meant to him as a young black man, seeing heroes and stories that reflected his community on screen. But out of all the blaxploitation films released during that era, the Candy Tangerine Man holds a special place in his heart. He's repeatedly mentioned it in interviews as his favorite film, not just from the blaxploitation genre, but overall. Quentin Tarantino, Jackson's frequent collaborator and a fellow exploitation film enthusiast, shares this appreciation. Both Jackson and Tarantino have cited the Candy Tangerine Man as a masterpiece of the genre, praising its style, energy, and attitude. For Jackson, the film represented something pure and exciting about 1970s black cinema. A movie that wasn't trying to make grand statements or appeal to white audiences, but was simply telling its story with confidence and flair. The fact that one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, known for iconic roles in films like Pulp Fiction, the Star Wars prequels, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, counts the obscure, low-budget exploitation film from 1975 as his favorite speaks to the lasting impact these films had on their audiences. Jackson's love for the Candy Tangerine Man has helped keep the film's reputation alive and introduced it to new generations of viewers who might otherwise never have heard of it. His endorsement carries weight and has contributed to the film's cult status. Fact 13 influenced Samuel L. Jackson's speech pattern director Matt Cimber made a fascinating discovery years after completing The Candy Tangerine Man, one that connected his little exploitation film to one of Hollywood's biggest stars in an unexpected way. When watching Samuel L. Jackson's performances in various movies, Cimber noticed something striking. Jackson's distinctive rhythm and cadence of speech closely mirrored the delivery style of John Daniels in The Candy Tangerine Man. It wasn't just a passing similarity, but a recognizable pattern in how both actors structured their sentences, emphasized certain words, and created rhythm in their dialogue. Cimber realized that Jackson, who has openly discussed his love for the film, had apparently internalized Daniels's performance to the point where it influenced his own acting style. Jackson's speech patterns have become one of his most recognizable trademarks as an actor. The way he can make even simple dialogue sound musical and commanding, how he builds intensity through rhythm as much as volume, and his ability to turn monologues into performances that audiences remember long after the movie ends. The idea that this signature style was partly shaped by watching John Daniels in a low-budget blaxploitation film adds another layer to the Candy Tangerine Man's cultural impact. Daniels's performance, created during a rushed 10-day shoot on a tiny budget, ended up influencing one of the most successful actors of the next generation. It's a reminder that artistic influence doesn't always flow from prestigious, well-funded productions to lesser works. Sometimes a scrappy exploitation film can shape the way a future icon approaches their craft. Fact 14. The spoiler opening theme song. The Candy Tangerine Man has a major plot twist at its center, the revelation that the Baron, who appears to be a full-time pimp living the street life, is actually a suburban family man with a wife and kids living a completely double existence. It's meant to be a surprise that reframes everything the audience has seen up to that point, adding complexity to a character who initially seems like a straightforward blaxploitation antihero. There's just one problem: the opening theme song completely gives away this twist before the movie even begins. The lyrics of the song that plays over the opening credits explicitly describe the Baron's double life, mentioning his family in the suburbs and his secret identity. Multiple reviewers have pointed out this bizarre storytelling decision, noting that the film essentially spoils its own plot in the first few minutes, ruining what should have been a dramatic reveal later in the story. It's unclear whether this was an intentional choice or just an oversight from a production that was too rushed and chaotic to notice the problem. Maybe the filmmakers thought the double identity premise was too good to save for later and wanted audiences to know about it from the start. Or maybe the person who wrote the theme song lyrics and the people editing the film simply weren't communicating well enough to realize they were giving away the surprise. Either way, it's a perfect example of the kind of rough-around-the-edges filmmaking that defines The Candy Tangerine Man. The movie doesn't always make the most logical choices, but that lack of polish has become part of its charm for fans who appreciate its raw, unpredictable energy. Fact 15. Garbage disposal mutilation scene. The Candy Tangerine Man includes a scene of shocking violence that critics claim influenced a similar sequence in another well-known revenge thriller. In this scene, one of the villains meets a brutal end when his hand is forced into a kitchen garbage disposal, which is then turned on. The film doesn't cut away or suggest the violence off-screen. It shows the mutilation in graphic detail, with the character's hand being mangled by the grinding mechanism while he screams in agony. It's an unexpectedly visceral moment in a film that's mostly about street-level crime and the Baron's double life, standing out as particularly cruel even by blaxploitation standards. The scene made enough of an impression that film critics have drawn direct connections between this moment and a famous torture sequence in Rolling Thunder, the 1977 revenge film written by Paul Schrader and starring William Devane. In that film, the protagonist's hand is destroyed in a garbage disposal by criminals, serving as the inciting incident that sends him on his revenge mission. The similarity is specific enough that critics have argued the Candy Tangerine Man directly influenced Rolling Thunder's most memorable scene. Whether the filmmakers behind Rolling Thunder consciously borrowed from the Candy Tangerine Man, or whether it's a case of convergent thinking about household appliances as torture devices is unclear. But the fact that a low-budget blaxploitation film from 1975 potentially inspired a scene in a more prestigious revenge thriller shows the unexpected ways exploitation films influenced mainstream cinema, with techniques and ideas flowing from the margins toward the center.